The floral scent of her perfume, lingering faintly on the crisp hotel room air, was the first thing that hit me. My stomach churned. It was Lily's perfume, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary, the scent that was supposed to remind me of our love, of our life together. Now, it was a nauseating precursor to the gut punch I knew was coming. For weeks, I'd ignored the signs. The late nights at work, the hushed phone calls taken in the other room, the way she'd flinch when I touched her. I'd ignored them because I loved her, desperately, foolishly. I'd convinced myself I was being paranoid, that our 10 years of marriage were a solid foundation nothing could shake. But the anonymous text message I'd received an hour earlier, with the hotel name and room number, had shattered that illusion. It had cracked the foundation and sent tremors through my soul. Room 304. The brass numbers gleamed under the dim hallway lights. My hand trembled as I inserted the keycard, a keycard I'd borrowed from Lily's purse while she was in the shower, humming a carefree tune. The click of the lock felt deafening. The door swung inwards, and there they were. Lily, my Lily, tangled in the sheets with a man I vaguely recognized from her office. Jesse, the slick sales executive, the one with the perfect hair and the overly familiar laugh. Lily's eyes, usually sparkling with warmth and humor, widened in abject terror. The blood drained from her face, leaving her skin ashen. She gasped, a strangled sound that died in her throat. Her body went rigid, then crumpled onto the bed like a marionette with its strings cut. Jesse, on the other hand, reacted with a pathetic attempt at bravado. He scrambled to cover himself with the sheet, his face a mask of disbelief and fear. "Who the hell are you?" he stammered, his voice cracking. I didn't answer. I just stood there, letting the tableau sink in. The scattered clothes on the floor, the half-empty bottle of champagne on the nightstand, the lingering smell of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. It was a scene ripped straight from a bad movie, yet it was my life. "David," Lily finally whispered, her voice barely audible. She looked like a frightened animal caught in a trap. "Surprise," I said, my voice surprisingly calm, even to my own ears. The calmness was a thin veneer over a raging inferno of hurt and anger. "David, it's not what it looks like," she pleaded, the words spilling out in a desperate rush. "Really?" I asked, gesturing around the room. "Because it looks pretty damn clear to me." Jesse, regaining some of his composure, decided to interject. "Look, man, this is between Lily and me." My gaze snapped to him. "No," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "This is between Lily and me. You are just a pathetic footnote in the story of my ruined life." I stepped towards him, my fists clenched. Jesse cowered back, suddenly realizing he was outmatched. He was all talk and expensive suits, no real substance. I might have been a quiet, unassuming accountant, but years of pent-up rage gave me a strength I didn't know I possessed. "Get out," I growled, pointing towards the door. He didn't need to be told twice. He scrambled out of bed, grabbing his clothes and practically tripping over himself in his haste to escape. He threw a panicked look at Lily before fleeing the room, leaving a trail of discarded clothing in his wake. Lily began to sob, her body shaking uncontrollably. "David, please," she begged, "I'm sorry. I made a mistake." "A mistake," I repeated, my voice laced with bitterness. 10 years of marriage, Lily. 10 years of building a life together, and you throw it away for a cheap thrill with this nobody. She tried to touch me, but I flinched away as if she'd burned me. "Don't," I said, my voice breaking. "Don't even try to touch me." I turned away from her, unable to bear the sight of her tears, the sound of her pleas. I walked to the window and stared out at the city lights, feeling a profound sense of emptiness. The future I had envisioned, the one with Lily by my side, had vanished in an instant. "I love you, David," she sobbed. The words hung in the air, heavy with irony. "Love," I laughed, a harsh, hollow sound. "You have a funny way of showing it." I didn't stay long. I took one last look at the woman who had shattered my world, then turned and walked out, leaving her alone with the wreckage of her deceit. The following weeks were a blur of pain and anger. I filed for divorce, the legal proceedings a cold, impersonal confirmation of the end of our marriage. Lily called, texted, even showed up at my apartment, begging for forgiveness. But the damage was done. The trust was broken, shattered beyond repair. I started seeing a therapist, trying to piece my life back together. It was a slow, agonizing process, but gradually, the sharp edges of my pain began to soften. I focused on my work, on rebuilding my life, brick by painful brick. One evening, several months later, I was having dinner with a friend when I saw Jesse across the restaurant. He looked haggard, thinner, his perfect hair now streaked with grey. He was alone, nursing a drink, a picture of misery. My friend followed my gaze. "Isn't that the guy?" he began. I nodded. I didn't feel the surge of anger I once would have. Instead, I felt a strange sense of pity. He had lost his job, his reputation tarnished by the affair. Lily, I learned, had moved back in with her parents, ostracized by her friends and family. Their little world had crashed down around them, just as mine had. But unlike them, I was slowly rebuilding. I was starting to see a future for myself, a future that didn't include Lily or the pain she had inflicted. It wasn't the future I had planned, but it was a future nonetheless. I raised my glass in a silent toast, not to revenge, but to survival. To the strength I had found within myself to pick up the pieces and move on. The taste of freedom, tinged with the bittersweet memory of what I had lost, was surprisingly intoxicating.